Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends. Here for another edition of Value First. Today, we're talking about the B2B trap and how to get out of it and do some value first customer stuff. Here with good friend, fellow HubSpot consultant, Rylee Powell. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Chris. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. A little bit of an intro here because this one came about. So if you've been following along Value First framework, it is this framework of 10 traps and 10 manifestos. Real quick, related to AI, humans, communication, content, partner, delivery, platform, measurement, culture, and leadership, right? And those happen first. And then this, like, what we see over and over is like the framework is not, it's not using revolutionary language, right? It's saying very common sense things. So that you, as you look back and look at the whole thing, you're like, okay, why can't we do common sense things, right? And that's where it started going down at first it was value first B2B and the B2B trap, because obviously the structure that's been created for B2B to operate in is a part of the issue when we talk about moving from industrial age to age of AI and eventually it wasn't hard to get over to value first customer instead of, value first B2B, because a lot of organizations, well, first of all, like it should be most common sense of all that when you focus on creating value for your customers, that's how you grow a successful business.
Yeah.
Right. That's when they pay you money over and over and over. And most organizations will say that they're customer centric, or they think sometimes very strongly they believe they are customer centric. But then you hear about all these traps that I just mentioned because of this machinery, this artificial business machinery that's been set up. Whether it's a CRM and it's digital, or it's just a sales process, and this is how we get leads, and this is how we close leads, and then this is how we hand off to each other, and this is your job, and I have these there's all these things that get in the way of real, authentic human relationships, right? And today we're exploring this foundational trap. And as I'm saying it out loud, it reminds me of the fact that like marketers, like we hate pop-ups, right? But then we go to work and we like can't wait to like publish the next
Build more pop-ups.
Right? It's like, oh, we're a different person over here in B2B land. We don't like any of this shit.
Yeah.
But yet we ask our customers and prospects to go through all this. So I think that's a good foundation to build from. And again, like some of it sounds provocative just because we're just used to it being a certain way, even though we know a lot of this isn't working. But I think it connects to some of the things you've been sharing with me in customer success. And we see most B2B organizations designing everything around internal convenience while claiming to be customer centric. Like, what has that looked like, from your perspective?
Yeah, you're to me it's very well condensed into your sentiment of like, I hate pop-ups, but then I go and I build pop-ups. The amount of times that you're in a room talking about, okay, we've got to, increase this metric, or we've got to, improve our go-to-market strategy. And people are saying, well, we need to do this or this or this. And then at the same time, or, either additionally or later, they kind of are also been, well, I don't want to do that. Like I would hate if someone did that with me or to me or whatever, but they are following this I don't know if it's actually written or unwritten best practices rule of like, we just have to keep tweaking and finessing and fine tuning and forcing these things in front of people instead of necessarily thinking about like, how can we serve it up and be totally okay with their response or their interaction with it. They might not choose to interact with something. That's fine. That's their prerogative. But I do think it's very difficult for an organization, I think, to self-diagnose this, because I think, like your point, everyone is believing that they are customer centric. I don't think anyone shows up to work and thinks like, well, time to work for me today and screw these customers. You know, like it's they all think that it is this customer centric motion that's going on, and it's difficult to understand when you're not actually being customer centric because you're not your customer. It's kind of like that, there's a bunch of biases. It's kind of like that I'm not biased bias. It's this belief of like, well, everyone else has biases, but I don't have biases. So everyone has to deal with their biases. But everyone has biases, including you. And one of the biggest ones you have to get over is that you are, in fact, biased. And it's the same with this customer-centric motion. You have to be willing to think and truly understand, maybe I'm not doing things that are customer-centric. And it's reasonable to not, I understand how people cannot think that. To me, a lot of this can kind of have connections with like psychology in some ways. If you're familiar with love languages as like a theory, it lands a lot there with me, where it's like the company, whether it's the founder, the CEO, or just the company as a whole, is sitting there thinking, I'm showing my customers a lot of love. They're like, I'm giving you all these gifts. But the client is like, well, I want quality time. These gifts are meaningless to me. Like, you're showing me love in a way that I don't care to receive the love. And I think that's where a lot of this misalignment kind of comes from, and why people think they feel that they're really bending over backwards to be customer centric, but their clients, customers do not feel that, and they don't think that.
I love that example. And I'm actually like Googling the love languages for work.
Yeah.
Right now, and I guess it's similar on both sides, but words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's a real thing. Like, and especially when those gifts like have your logo on them and there's swag, and it's like,
yeah. And I'm sure for the founder, it really feels like you are investing a lot of money and time into infrastructure and into people. And it's easy to look at those things and be like, look at all the things I'm giving you, customer. But they don't see those as like being above and beyond the scope of what they should expect. That's like table stakes of, yeah, okay, great. What else have you got? I need you to delight me in the way that I want to be delighted.
yeah, it's a powerful scenario, just because all of the traps, like within this trap, like all build on themselves.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the more I see there's connection, like the more passionate I get about it, just because it's a mountain for us to climb if we're choosing to try and help people. And like, I listed off all the value first sides, like the manifestos, but I think it'll help just to list the traps real quick, because I'm going to list them. There's a specific order, like, to the traps.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an AI replacement trap first. It's only first from a strategic perspective. Like, it's what everybody's worried about right now.
Right. It's the most prominent.
But it's also like the first opportunity, like that AI replacement, getting out of that mindset and focusing on AI enablement and empowerment is an opportunity for everybody. Right. But really, I would have started with the humans if we haven't heard all of this before. Like, there's always been some kind of like, this is how you manage people better. But on the trap side, we've got the leads trap.
Yep.
the advertising trap, the lead magnet trap, the qualification trap, the managed services trap, the ERP trap, the measurement trap, the conformity trap, and the authority trap. And once you can sit down and see all of them together, like it's so easy to see the infrastructure that has been built to support them all working together.
Yeah.
Like literally we got to get leads. Okay, how do we get leads?
Ads.
We got to do ads. Okay, we got a bunch of so how do we serve the ads? Oh, we got to create lead magnets that people can download, right? And give us their email. Oh, we got a bunch of shit email addresses. So now we got to build this whole qualification infrastructure, which we call SDRs and BDRs, right? Oh, we have to build a complex system to support all this. I guess we better need somebody who can do that, and we're going to pay them a lot of money through a managed services contract, right? Then there's also going to be the non-customer focused systems like ERPs and accounting, and that tend to make all these decisions about how it needs to work data-wise that doesn't serve a customer experience at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
That drives what we can measure. So then because we can measure the thing, we start doing these tactics that are not customer focused.
But we're creating the scoreboard and then putting scores up there that aren't really relevant to what the customer is experiencing. It's just scores for the sake of scores. And we're like, things are happening. This is great. We're moving towards the goal. But then you zoom way out and realize like, well, we left them behind, days ago.
Yeah. But that connection of like those, it's very hard to like if you're used to doing them all in an organization, if you change one of them, it impacts like the rest.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it's challenging for change agents like myself. When we suggest change, it's very hard to not make it feel like we're trying to boil the ocean or like do all these things, but that's where we're at now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the goal of this whole kind of concept framework is you can't change it all at once, but you have to understand like the old ways, they're not built, for this world of AI and like internal and external customer enablement.
Yeah.
Right. At fast rates of change and speed, and when buyers want what they want, the fact that price is no longer the most significant thing, mm-hmm. like speed of response is.
It's experience. It's 100% experience.
Right. And I remember explaining this internally, like why it's such an impactful thing to understand. Like when it was price, any salesperson can just say out loud, like they can go down to level free.
Yeah.
Like if they're willing to eat margin or whatever, they can decide the price on the spot. Well, if your quoting process takes 2 weeks, you can't automatically just go make it 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Without developing systems and processes and all these things we've been talking about.
I do want to me, in learning a lot of these value first things and aligning with them, especially since you brought up the traps, like where I think it's important and how I kind of conceptualize this, and you can tell me if I'm, wrong or off base or if this is a interesting way of thinking about it. But like, just imagine, you call them traps. Imagine literal physical traps. Someone is just walking through some path and there's these traps that are just trying to ensnare them and keep them there and keep them entrenched. And that entity that is walking is your organization. And the way this all kind of connects with the customer experience and the value first customer framework is that entity is carrying a bunch of customers. And when they get ensnared in these traps, those customers feel that they're also trapped. They're trapped with them. they're beholden to what happens to your organization, trying to navigate away from these traps. And if you can avoid them all, then it's a very smooth, pleasant walk all the way to where you're trying to go. But everyone you get ensnared in and entrenched in, like, they can feel the jolts, the tensions, the difficulties, and it just makes it so much more difficult to provide a good, easing, comfortable experience for your customers.
I definitely feel like there's like a comic book or like a movie,
Yeah.
some kind of creative storytelling to be done there visually. Because what came to mind to me, because it's literally like you can see people on calls like freeze up, like get paralyzed, knowing that they should be doing something else than the thing that they're doing right now. They can't explain why. They cannot stop. Often,
we're on the rails.
right? Often you can point back to some KPI
Yeah.
that's in charge of making sure this thing gets done. And so it came to mind as you were describing that, like the leads, like MQL KPIs, for example. Like, not only do we have customers, we're responsible for getting more, right? So if we're in that trap and we want people to notice us and come be customers, but we can't move out of this space, guess what we gotta do? We gotta be loud,
Yep.
like obnoxious, try to like get people's attention and flag them
Yep.
down while not just going to their space. Man, this works really well. This analogy is gonna be great. Like, yeah, going to where they are, like, because I'm stuck here, I'm stuck in my space, I'm stuck in my
I'm
process,
trapped.
literally. Man, and how did we get here to the point where the KPIs and like it's very close relationship between KPIs and technology?
Well,
You
yeah.
know,
I
right?
mean, for me, I know I have a tendency that I could get there if left unchecked because I love operational efficiency. I love trying to design just this perfect closed-in system that accounts for every nuance and factor and can just operate. But I think you're supposed to approach it knowing that that's an unachievable thing to strive towards. Not that you have ever gotten there and you can move on from there. That it's kind of that the values in the journey, not the destination. Like it's in the perpetual striving for making those things, but it's never right. But people believe that it is, and then so they then start creating these KPIs or these, we got to increase our leads by X% in order for what? Or what are we trying to achieve? Why are we trying to achieve it? A lot of it is just growth strategies without a reason beyond just, I want to make more. I want the company to be worth more. Well, are you providing more value for customers, or are you just trying to make more in spite of providing value to your customers? Like, how are you growing?
Just got to sell more boxes.
Yeah, get them more widgets out there.
Yeah. And how are we going to do that? Oh, we're just going to double the amount that we sell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, how are we going to do that? Okay, well, we need to create 4 times the amount of leads. Well, how do we do that? Well, we need to have 10 times the amount of ads shown. Like let's show our waterfall. Okay, but what? What?
Yeah. Oh man. Meanwhile, and this is where I've come a long way from when I was internally, like positioned as a marketing leader. Always, we'll say in frictionful moments with the sales team. But now I totally get it. Like, oftentimes they know that those numbers, like selling 50 last year,
such a great
doesn't
job
mean
of just putting our blinders on and being like, this is just the way that we do it. But when the minute you step back, you see that it's all just a house of cards where you're like, what is this?
Yeah. That's why, like, you'll sit through these sales management presentations where they're like, forecasting doesn't mean anything. And like the long tenured people know that. And they're like, okay, whenever we're done here, I'm just going to go back to selling stuff if that's cool.
Yeah.
Because that's how we build relationships. And whenever I see this work for real, like give me a call basically because I've never seen a good CRM implementation and all this stuff. So I definitely get it. And so this over reliance on either to the technology or even the theory of it being able to fix the problem instead of like taking a step back strategically as an organization, it's almost a guarantee that it will show itself in the form of some handoff
Mm-hmm.
between teams.
Yes.
Now you were on the customer success side, so I'm very curious. Like, I imagine you've seen some challenges.
Well, that's where the mess always lands, and is realized as a mess, like in accounting terms, where it's like you realize the loss. Like, okay, it's a loss the whole time until it's realized. Like, that's where the mess is realized when it hits CS's or customer success, or like, cool, we've landed them as a customer. What now? Because throughout the entire process, they're kind of just being like shoveled through these processes where people are being like, done. That's a lead. Nailed it. That was a great lead. Tap myself on the back. Got that great form filled. They filled out this information. I don't care what they put in it, but they submitted it. Great. Passed it off to sales. I don't even know what sales did with it. Cool. And so like they're checking the boxes that are, I did the thing that I needed to do to this lead, which is a human being on the other end of that is forgotten throughout all of this. And then sales gets it. And because a lot of these systems don't go to the nth degree of really trying to outline and highlight the handoff as that really important inflection point, they just go and interface with the customer without being able to understand the journey that they just went on. Like, what were they looking at? Why were they looking at it? Because as everyone knows, it's easier to just talk to someone and ask questions than it is to do a bunch of research into a system that you may or may not be familiar with and that may or may not be designed to elevate you to piece together what has happened. It's always easier just to be like, well, how'd you, what are you looking for? Where the customer is feeling like, I've told you what I'm looking for. Why do I have to reiterate this again? And that repeats over and over and over again. I think now with some certain call recording tools, it's gotten a little bit better, at least in probably the sales cycle. And to some extent, the handoff between sales and CS, where people can just go review the call recordings, but just because they can do it doesn't mean they do it, which is why they've all got these now AI digest summarization components to them. And then, I mean, the amount of times that someone effectively summarizes something that I'm trying to communicate, and then that I feel that they understand what I was trying to say is never. Like, the reason I use 100 words is because 10 won't do. And so these summarization tools just don't seem to be effective at the handoff. But it's great for people to be able to not feel like a total clunky step in the process.
Well, that's where we misunderstand what the purpose is of the data capture in a lot of ways, right? Like, it's not so everybody can be hands off.
For the other human. The problem, and it's, it's weird framing it like this. The problem is that the problem manifests whenever it's another human that interfaces with the system, because it's them having to try and understand what the system knows, and they're not able to do it with pristine, like, recall.
Right. And that's like internally, but also with customers too. Like, if you make them tell you every time, it's a good chance the story changes. But also, like, that's where there's such a nuanced difference.
That you care about me. And that's the human customer element. Like, if I feel cared for, I'm in. If I feel that I'm a transaction, then I'm a transaction, which means that I might just be a transaction you don't get. Like, cool, I don't need to give you a heads up. I don't have any allegiance or any alliance to you.
Yeah. And there's such a difference between where I've seen this misunderstood is like, there's a huge difference from a customer perspective. Because there's always this element of like, oh, I want to hear it in their words again. I wasn't on the conversation before, so that's why I need to ask these questions, and gives me an opportunity to show value, blah, blah, blah. the difference between the customer having to repeat themselves and you repeating back to the customer
Yes.
what they have told you is everything. Like it's 100% different, like 180, however you
And
want to look
it's
at it.
because the customer realizes that you're putting in your mental effort to try and understand their experience. That you're trying to, that's why we love when people restate something to us in their own words, because we realize that they tried to integrate what you said with themselves and who they are and their experiences and passions and frustrations and restate it to you to make sure that you're aligned. And that's when someone does that to you, you're like, oh, thank you. Like you kind of are trying to get it. Where if you just ask me to repeat myself again, I don't have any faith that you heard me the first time or that you're going to hear me at all the second time. And that this is now just a worthless exercise.
Yeah. It doesn't breed trust. That's for sure.
Right.
And just spoiler alert, that's what it means to be value first customer. Like you got to build trust with every step. Like we're at a point where when we talk about common sense things, like if you're in a position or you're on a team, you're in an organization where it's not as simple as if the thing that you're about to do is likely not going to build trust, don't do it. Like the fact that that's not an easy, like a
the
common
fact that
response.
People don't respond with duh to that,
right?
It's ridiculous.
It's like, no, what are they respond with? Oh, I need to hit my KPIs. Like I got to make this many calls.
Yeah.
Like et cetera, et cetera. And I always thought it was solely due to the lack of like standardized methodologies related to like marketing and sales and customer experience. Because at least from the manufacturing space, like operationally, it's not that leaders can't understand complex systems.
Right.
Like if you ever seen engineering diagrams and like ISO certified systems, lean manufacturing, like very complex and a lot of time and very granular detail, because this stuff needs to work. But it's also often just like it's zeros and ones. 1 + 1 equals 1 equals 2 every time. And human behavior is not like that at all. So
it's not like the zeros and ones, but it is. See, I love that analogy because it's like these leaders sometimes see the task and the solution as the real complex system without acknowledging that the human being and the relationship is also a complex system. That it's one isn't more complex than the other. They're equally complex and both are worthy of attempting to solve for them and make sure that they are both in a good state.
Yes. But when we see, like, so initially when the idea of a revenue factory came out, it's like, okay, that makes sense. Like it's the analogy described makes sense. But then the more I see, like, the more I started digging into value first, like it's not this whole concept that this can be a controlled assembly line activity. That's just not how humans work. And now what's coming to mind is as AI shows up and I'm somehow learning about like quantum computing and particles and I forget which one is the thing, but whatever the particle that is zeros and ones always all the time, unless you're looking at it and then you can tell which one it is.
Right.
Like at that moment, but then the next moment it's back to just being like in
it's in flux or whatever.
Right. It's always in flux. And that's literally like how humans are. Like because what we're seeing now, at least in my behavior, like I'm always, when I do a thing, like open an email, for example, that I was not expecting from somebody I don't know, I always immediately question, like, why the hell did I do that? I tell people not to do that all the time. I kind of click the spam, like, but why did I do that? And so much of it's related to like mood time of
Yeah.
day? Was I thinking
I
about
don't
that exact
always
topic?
do anything. The only
Right?
thing I always do is breathe. Like I don't always open an email. I don't always like, but sometimes I will. I don't always answer an unknown call, but sometimes I will. And like sometimes I'm receptive, sometimes I'm not. Like it's just this I am existing in multiple states all at once, and whatever that inflection point is what state you'll get in that moment.
Yeah. And to think that we have any control over that outcome is just
I barely have any
it's
control over my own state, much less yours or
ex-
anyone else's.
exactly. So that gets into like we have this human reality, versus the machinery of
Mhm.
business. Um, and let's say, I'm sure you've seen this before, like customers ready to move forward, but they hit some artificial barrier, like in the process. Like what example comes to mind
Oh, so many.
when you've seen that happen in real time?
Uh, I think there's like the quintessential thing now where everyone is doing this all of the time, which is the just give me your human, please, um, like moment where everyone is always trying to be gated by, some AI process or some caller or some directory or something like that. And you're like, I just want to get around this step and get to the human. Also, I think every salesperson can feel in their soul that I don't need a discovery, just let me buy. Like, I don't need to have this scoping call. I don't need this 10-step process. Some people, for whatever reason, are fully ready to buy well before you think they are or your process thinks they are. Some people do benefit from being put in that process and shepherded along. So it's never a one size fits all thing, but it's, you know, people need the off ramp. If someone's ready to get off and go, let them go. Um, and then there's the like conversely where it's we're trying to force something to happen that the person's just not wanting to do at all, with like the lead scoring of the person who's just infinitely scoring up all the time, but it's just because they like the content and they're never going to buy anything, but like they're just in this process, in this loop, and they keep getting this outreach or this blah 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 or whatever, but that's not what they want from you or how they interact with you.
And if they do create value, like that's where sometimes those people are the best at referring other people.
Yeah, as long as you can not piss them off, like if
Right.
they just love your content and they're never giving you money, they can still point people in your direction as long as you don't burn that bridge.
Yes. So there's just so many ways to create value that are based on what the human wants versus what the organization wants. And
And
that's the
trying to
challenge. I
force
mean, that's a
anyone
fair,
doing something into a way to get value from them, trying to extract value from people instead of provide people the opportunity to find value themselves.
yeah. And I think that's the challenge and success of businesses when they figure that out. Like your whole, like the reason for your existence as a business is to align with value creation in a way that makes you money and makes the customer happy.
Yeah,
Like, and
ideally.
avoids, yeah, and avoids these scenarios where like somebody's got to sacrifice so much just to take the next step or create scarcity and urgency when there is none, and just all these different unnatural things that get
Hmm.
forced on the process on both sides,
Yeah.
right? um so we're going to talk about like how to some ideas for what not being in these traps look like.
Mhm.
And I'm going to start with like kind of the vision of just imagine if you're in an organization and you could say these things at the end of the year. Like these are the 10 commitments of the value first customer manifesto. And I'm just going to run through them all and we'll talk about them after. But so just try to put yourself in this position. I can say this, like how great it would be, and also what might have to be true for you to be able to say this at your organization. Number one, we will integrate AI to enhance customer connection, not replace it. We recognize that technology should multiply authentic relationship capacity, not substitute for it. Number two, we will honor natural human progression over forced process compliance. We recognize that people have inherent patterns for discovering, evaluating, and adopting new possibilities. We will design our interactions to support these natural patterns rather than forcing people through predetermined stages that serve our internal convenience. Number three, we will listen for authentic needs rather than confirm predetermined solutions. We believe that real problems require authentic understanding, not leading questions. Number four, we will provide value at every stage without requiring artificial advancement. We understand that trust builds through consistent value delivery, not information extraction. Number five, we will build capability rather than create dependency. We believe that sustainable relationships require customer empowerment, not customer reliance. We will focus on developing customer capability and confidence rather than creating ongoing dependence on our processes and systems. Number six, we will enable authentic exploration without hidden agenda or pressure. We believe that confident decisions require thorough exploration and without manipulation. We will create environments where people can investigate possibilities completely and comfortably without sensing ulterior motives or pressure tactics. Like, are you going to renew next month? Number seven, we will design systems that adapt to customers rather than requiring customer adaptation. We recognize that customer success requires organizational flexibility, not customer compliance. Number eight, we will measure success through customer value realization, not internal process completion. We understand that meaningful success happens in customer organizations, not in our systems. Number nine, we will embrace customer complexity rather than forcing oversimplification. We acknowledge that real customer situations are nuanced and multifaceted. We will design approaches that honor this complexity rather than reducing people to simple categories, scores, or predetermined journey stages. And number 10, we will evolve continuously based on customer learning rather than internal assumptions. We understand that customer needs and contexts change constantly. We will build systems for ongoing learning and adaptation based on customer feedback and changing conditions rather than static best practices. Any of those resonate or stick out in your mind as I go through all 10 of them?
Could you read that first one again?
The AI one?
The first principle that you just.
We will integrate AI to enhance customer connection, not replace it.
Yeah. I love that one. I think it's extremely topical right now. And I think a lot of people are at a point where they're probably going to do that wrong. I was listening to the Stephen Bartlett podcast, The Diary of a CEO, and he had Simon Sinek on a while ago, and he outlined this example that he'd seen before that like can't really explain. Well, I guess we can't. It's this weird situation that I think highlights what can go wrong here, where they were talking about AI and that when used in the wrong way, people know and can feel it, and that it's very disingenuous, and they have this kind of icky response to it. Outlining the example of, like, say you're in a conflict with your spouse or with a girlfriend, and you type into ChatGPT whatever the entire situation, and ChatGPT prompts you with here's how you should resolve this problem, And then you go and you do all of the right things. You go, you say you apologize, you acknowledge their feelings, you take ownership, and then you say you're going to correct it going forward. You do the textbook resolve and repair. But, then she says, or he says, did you just plug this into ChatGPT and get the response? And you say, yeah, they're still mad. Like, so what is that? Like, it's not the output. You did everything right. Like, so there's something there that you, as the human being, have the obligation to really try and internalize and understand. You can't just rely on AI. You can't put the situation or put something into AI and take the output. And even if it is the right answer, like that, I don't understand how to really articulate that correctly, but I've just been chewing on it a lot lately of like, it's right, but it's wrong. Doing it is wrong, and how it's presented is wrong, and humans can feel it, and we don't like it, and we know that something's going on there. And I think that really aligns with that first, like, we will integrate AI to optimize the human interaction, not to replace it. Like, if it is not elevating the way that you interact with humans, it's going to fail miserably, and people are going to know, and people are going to have a ick and a distaste, and they're not going to be able to explain why. It's going to be this gut thing of just like, ugh. And that's just going to be our reality.
Well, we're doing our best to help people avoid that, because
For sure.
it's as simple as, like, if AI is not involved and you assess your own team, it's so easy to highlight weaknesses of human beings, which part of the process, why, like, what we're organically as biological beings limited to on a daily basis, right? So literally, like, the second line here, we will use AI to handle coordination complexity while freeing humans to focus on creative problem solving, strategic insight, and genuine customer relationship building. The people who have been doing data entry for years, they get assigned that value by leadership. It's like this self-fulfilling prophecy, like, oh, our people can't handle AI, or they can't like get involved in the customer relationships in the way that the sales team can. They just do data entry. Meanwhile, they're the closest to the customers.
Yeah.
They always have amazing ideas about how to make the experience better, but nobody has time to act on those ideas. Guess what? Like, they could have all the time in the world now when you're using AI
Yes.
to handle all the administration of stuff, right? And instead of focusing on efficiency like that, again, this is the scarcity versus abundance mindset, where we focus on the things that are scarce in, like, time and cost, right? And we look for ways to implement AI that reduce those two things, right? Which often leads to, like, headcount reduction. Meanwhile, that headcount is probably the most valuable piece, the valuable asset, the most valuable asset your organization has that could immediately turn around
With 10 more of the exact
amazing
same
value.
things. Yeah, where it's now they can have more bandwidth to identify these more possibilities, and it creates this cascading exponential, like, and it keeps happening and multiplying and multiplying.
Yeah, and it's right there. Like, it's latent. Like, there's so much latent human value already sitting around. Like, and we just can't see it because we're asking people internally to move through these, really archaic systems at this point, because that's what we all know, recognize, right? And I'm gonna really, like, this is why that one is first.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be so easy, and we're gonna watch a lot of businesses make the very wrong decisions here, right?
That
My
will
favorite example,
short-term profit-making, revenue-generating wins. Like, they'll work in the short term, and it's just going to then create this miserable experience long-term and decline, and it's just not going to be a success.
Yeah, and my favorite example is this inbound case study last year. Like, obviously, the customer agent has been making a big splash in the ecosystem, and it launched at Inbound last year. And I remember sitting in this talk, and it was about how one company replaced 700 people with two customer agents. But it wasn't easy, and it took them 2 months to prepare the agents to be able to replace all the people. Guess what they were doing in those 2 months? They were mapping processes, documenting customer journeys, doing all the things they should have been doing for the 700 people.
Right.
And maybe if they had done those things, you don't need 700 people.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
And
they didn't have an operational sound structure for the people. They created one for the AI. So of course it's going to succeed.
Right. And that's where, like, when you take a step back, like, yeah, if you enable there's ways to enable your people, and it happens to be very similar ways to how you enable AI.
Yeah.
And just like understand that if you're looking at a part of the org that's just wholly inefficient and you're not sure why, but you know it should be better, like AI is going to come in and have the same exact issues.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I'm excited to help people like understand data models and process related to that, because the beautiful part of AI is like it can help you find those gaps. And then when you work with the humans on your team, because you're going to find what you don't want to do is just either transition your entire process into an AI first process,
right,
and leave your customers behind. But also, you don't want
to ever integrate anything with AI.
Yeah, you don't want to one for one, like, move the process into AI, because then it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. This collaboration, I think we are going to start seeing more of it, because it's inevitable that when you have people enabling, and I think when you hear terms like agent, like AI agent engineers and like all these new jobs are like, yeah, like maybe these 4 steps make sense to come over, but not these 4.
Right.
The human's going to be the one that needs to do that, because a lot of the stuff will be like customer focused, right? Well, no, we do this because our customers need a little help right here for this specific thing. And depending on where they're at, like there's nuance to all this, right?
Yeah. And there's also just, at least for the next 20 years while we transition as a society. So there's, literal technical limitations like you're talking about, of like it just struggles to get the nuances in place. But then there's also points that the customer just needs to be reminded that they are in fact interfacing with some level of a human on some degree somewhere. Like that if anyone feels that they're just fully on this journey with an AI for the, this transition period, like they need that reinforcement. You need these humans to be there because they're going to make the person feel cared for, which they are.
Yep. So as we round out here, let's give the people some actionable steps they could take. So for someone who's maybe hearing what we're saying today and is ready to start this transformation, what's the first thing that they should do tomorrow?
Well, it depends. I mean, it's, contextual, obviously, of well, who are you? If you're a founder or a CEO, and you are like, yes, this is my organization and I need to really take the full step of being customer centric, I think the most persistent and continuous litmus test you can do is always just ask your leaders and your like frontline sales and customer success reps, do you think that we're doing everything we can reasonably do for our clients? And if everyone says yes, then I think you're customer centric fully. Like, then I think it's perfect. But there's always ways to improve. And right now we have the bandwidth to really be able to listen to those things and improve. And if they say, well, they hate that it takes us a week to get pricing back, huge ways to implement AI to make that process more efficient. Or if they say, well, they really do not like that they have to interface with this chatbot before they come with us, like well, there's ways to make that a little bit different, or identify those people and have them have a like direct path in. Like there's ways to make it obvious that you are being extremely customer centric, because you can think that you are, but you're not speaking to your clients in that love language that they want to hear, that they're like, I need my words of affirmation and you're not giving me any. And so if you're not a founder or CEO and you're kind of working at an organization, you want to be that, how to lead when not in charge mindset. I think you focus on the things within your control. What are the ways that I can deliver more value to the customers, even if that ruffles some feathers of reps or of my managers or whatever? Like, be the advocate. Understand that if you do what it takes for your customers to be successful, even if that means it front loads some work on your time, and then you utilize AI to kind of optimize it and the repeatability of it, then I think it compounds. And then you end up being the person that has, the highest customer satisfaction metrics on the team, or that you have the quickest conversion or velocity on your team. I think, it's all, the acts are kind of all duh. And if you can detangle yourself from the mindset you have at work, and you can put yourself in the human to human, what does a customer need? Then they're obvious, gain trust, show up, give your all, like really try, do those things. But then how do you implement AI to do them? It's infinite.
Right. Yep. And the answer won't always be AI. I'd say more often than not, a lot of these frictional places are often like data capture related, or we need to have them push through this gate in order for this automated thing to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be hard to find just one place where there's friction and see if there's an artificial barrier on the other side of that, and just see what happens when you remove it.
Yeah. And I do think a really important thing that I've seen, I can't attest if this is this rampant thing in all companies, but a lot of people view their system, their operational system, their HubSpot system, their employee system as like this MVP of like, just build it, get it done, and ship it, and not this thing that they have continual improvements to and adjustments to. Your operational system can't be that, because nothing else in your organization is that. Your marketing team doesn't create one piece of content and then they're like, done, it's perfect, it'll never get better. They continue to receive feedback and push another one out, and your sales team does the same. And like, if you don't have people constantly evaluating, or AI constantly evaluating where your operational strategy is, and being like, okay, we need to redo lead scores this week, and we need to redo all this, like, it's never going to stay the same. So you have to keep iterating with it.
Yeah. So quick little framework at the end here that honestly I'm starting to test a little bit. Connect, magnify, and multiply. Right. So we want to connect by removing barriers between customers and genuine value. This happens way too much when the buy button is there.
Yeah.
And I click it, and then you don't let me buy it. I got to talk to somebody. That's one of these barriers that we say, let me give you money.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we got to
help me be successful. I get why you're doing it, but let me do the thing first and then walk with me on the journey. Don't try and stop me and talk with me first. Match my pace.
Yep. Magnify, accelerate customer success through AI enhanced human support, and multiply, creating exponential value through customer success that generates organic advocacy. So many of these loyalty programs and points programs that we see, oh yeah, they might be posting about you, but you can definitely tell the difference between a post from somebody who's trying to get something because of the post versus somebody who just can't handle how much value they just received. So they just got to tell somebody, right? And those are the things, like, human wise, we can feel that. We can feel that when it comes through. And I think that's a little bit more nuanced and harder to feel. But it's pretty obvious when you see it, like, in practice.
Yeah.
And that's where social, like, social is gaining and more like weighting in terms of AI results, just the feeling of, surprise, referrals, and word of mouth is the best way to get new business and pass trust. So when people are just, tagging each other because of the value that they are creating for each other and receiving, and it's just a much more natural way of moving forward. So
Without
appreciate.
like even without I know we got to wrap, but like what I find so fascinating about that is like there's referral programs, but I will refer someone without a referral program because I am valuing the relationship there and the fact that, hey, I'm thinking of this person and this tool is a good solution for this person. And I'm going to do that regardless of not getting anything at all from this organization that I'm bringing value to and I'm not affiliated with, because the value in the relationship. Because one day I'm hoping that they're looking out, they somewhere in the back of their mind are keeping my best interest in mind. Like it's this network effect of humanity, and we're all having these interactions with each other and willing to bend over backwards for each other because we understand that there's value in the relationships. And that's all you are as an organization, is relationships with your customers. And if you don't have that value there, you're not willing to do the things that kind of can feel like bending over backwards, you're just going to be really left behind in this new age, because it's going to get a lot easier for people to do that and feel that.
Yes, indeed. So our key takeaways from today: the B2B trap is a foundational problem that makes everything else harder. The Value First Customer Manifesto provides the alternative, which is designing around human reality instead of internal convenience. And just transforming in this way enables all other organizational improvements, right? Like, so it's literally the difference between feeling like, oh, I don't know how we can boil the ocean like that, to, oh, this is the reality of what's around us. We've got to make change at a large scale right now. Let's get down to work, right? So we want to hear from you. Where do you see the B2B trap showing up in your organization? What would change if you started designing around customer discovery patterns instead of internal processes? We'd love to hear from you. This has been awesome, man. Thanks so much for joining me today.
No, I appreciate it, Chris. Love the conversation. Love kind of some threads that I need to now wrestle with and continue expounding on.
Indeed. Well, we hope it was valuable. And until next time, everybody have a great rest of your Wednesday. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.